Hey, Michael with XForcePC. Let's talk graphics cards because it's getting a little ridiculous, the number of graphics cards there are, but in some ways it's more simple. First of all, when it comes to X-Plane, forget AMD as of right now. This is August 15th, I believe, of 2019, and because X-Plane is still running OpenGL, AMD for X-Plane is horrible, and I'm talking about graphics cards right now. Not necessarily AMD's fault, probably not AMD's fault, but just forget about AMD. Don't even think about it. The frame rate is about half what it should be. You don't want that. So all we do is Nvidia here for that reason. I'd love to offer AMD at some point, and we will if we can. Let's talk about this crazy lineup that Nvidia has. So the current lineup consists of the GTX 1650 and the GTS 1660 and 1660 Ti. Notice how they start with GTX. Then we move into RTX 2060, RTX 2070, RTX 2080, and the RTX 2080 Ti, which I ran out of room to fit on the table. Now, the designation GTX versus RTX, the RTX means it supports some special features regarding ray tracing. It has to do with lighting. As we have seen, the performance hit you take, and we've seen this in other games, not X-Plane, the performance hit you take with ray tracing is pretty substantial. So even though this has been implemented for this generation of graphics cards, it's probably not truly going to be a feature a lot of people use until the next generation of cards. So don't get hung up on the whole RTX ray tracing thing because it is a bit inefficient right now, and not many games support it. And by the time they do, the next generation of cards will come out. So that was the lineup. Up until recently. Now we want to talk about these new super cards that have come out. Okay, so Nvidia got wind of AMD coming out with some new cards that were going to be good performance for the dollar. And so they got the idea. They said, well, it looks like these cards are going to kind of fall in between, some of our cards. So we're going to counter that. And we're going to come out, now we have this 2060, RTX 2060, now we're going to have the RTX 2060 Super. So the 2060 Super is faster than the 2060, but not as fast as the 2070. And then, just so AMD can't possibly be the best value in any area, we're going to come out now with a 2070 Super, which is faster than a 2070, but not as fast as a 2080. And then just to be sure they can't possibly come out with something that has a better price to performance ratio, we're going to come out with a 2080 Super that's faster than a 2080, but not as fast as the 2080 Ti. So it just got more confusing, didn't it? The bottom line is it's what you would expect, just what I said, that a 2060 Super is going to fall between the 2060 and the 2070 on performance, and so on and so forth. The one thing that I will point out to you is on the 2060 Super, you get 8 gigs of VRAM versus 6 on the standard 2060. So that can be a nice little bonus. Not just better performance, but also, about 30% more memory, or GDDR6 on the graphics card. So that is how we wound up with these super cards. Now the question is, which one's right for you? Okay, I'm still sort of hiding behind these cards here, but let's talk about what you would use these cards for. What scenario? So let's start down here with the 1650 4 gig card. That card is unique in a couple of ways. First of all, it's pretty much the fastest card you can get that doesn't require an auxiliary PCI Express power connector. So all these other cards have these power things that you have to plug into the top of the card because they can't get all the power they need through the PCI Express slot. This card, however, is the one exception. It does not require auxiliary power. And it does a terrific job of running X-Plane on a single 1080p display. And that's how we use it. We put it in our budget system, and we always say that. We recommend it for a single 1080p display. Not 4K, not triple display, no. Just a single 1080p, and it does a terrific job at running X-Plane. Now, step up to either the 1660 or the 1660 Ti. Well, now you're in the area where you can support triple display. Now, on the 1660 and 1660 Ti, you can support triple 1080p, not 4K, triple 1080p, and you can do that on medium settings, what I would call medium settings. You can't go crazy with the anti-aliasing. You got to leave it sort of in the middle. Now you step up to the 2060 and the 2060 Super. You're sort of in that same territory as these. You can run triple 1080p, but you're going to get a little better frame rate. You still need to keep your anti-aliasing towards the middle, and you can't go too crazy on the settings, but sort of medium settings on the 2060 with triple 1080p. Now, you step up to the 2070 or the 2070 Super. Now you can crank your anti-aliasing up on a triple 1080p a decent amount. You still can't go all the way up, but you can crank it up, and you can crank your objects up a little bit more, and basically you just get a little better frame rate. You also, of course, could run a single 4K display on really any of these cards here in the middle. I'd be pushing it on these to run a single 4K. Certainly could run a single 4K on anything this direction. Now you go over to your 2080 and your 2080 Super. Then you can run 3 1080p displays, or 4, and you could turn that anti-aliasing up pretty darn high. And last but not least, we have the 2080 Ti, which is an 11 gig card, and you could run triple 4K displays on that, but you're going to need to keep your settings kind of towards the medium settings on that, medium low. Triple 4K, if you've seen a previous video of mine, is like running 12 1080p displays. So again, let me say that again. 3 4K displays is the same number of pixels as 12 1080p displays. So that gets really difficult to do. But it's the only tool in the arsenal right now in August of 2019. It's the fastest card. So if you got to run triple 4K, it's really your only option. It still won't do a terrific job of it, and you can blame X-Plane for a fair bit of that. But it is your only option. So hopefully, maybe that demystifies some of the kind of ridiculously huge lineup. I said 10 cards. Actually, I guess there's 11 maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, there's 10 when you count the 2080 Ti. So hopefully that helps you understand why you would want a 2080 or 2060 or et cetera, and why they created these super cards.